Hi, it's Mark Bossert, producer of the Pawlik Automotive podcast. We're here with Mr. Bernie Pawlik. Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, Vancouver's best automotive experience, service experience, and of course, 19-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver as voted by their customers. And we're talking cars. How you doing this morning, Bernie?
Doing well.
So 2013 Mercedes ML550 that had some rear shock absorbing problems. What was going on with this fine German SUV?
It's a fine German SUV. Yeah, it's a really nice vehicle, by the way. Yeah, it's a 550. It's kind of a notch below an AMG ML63, and just a super awesome vehicle, like twin turbo V8, lots of power, nice features. It's a super nice vehicle. Anyways, so the owner brought it in for a B service a few months back, and one thing we noticed is the left rear shock absorber was leaking fluid, and so that was definitely something that needed to be replaced. So this was the day, and we did the service on the shock absorbers.
So why was it leaking?
Shock absorbers will just leak when they get old. I mean, they have seals, and to be honest, the vehicle is, it's a 6-year-old vehicle. I think it's got about 140 Ks, so I guess it's getting up there in mileage, but things just wear out. Shock absorbers are filled with fluid. These ones are not a hydraulic shock like you do find on some Mercedes products where they actually have a pumped oil into them. This is just the fluid is just contained within the shock absorber, but it's a critical part of any shock absorber action is fluid, pistons, valving, and things like that reduce the shock when you hit bumps.
So did you notice anything while driving the vehicle?
Yeah, you can really notice probably initially when she brought the vehicle in for service, the first service, there wasn't really much noticeable in terms of ride, but it's been a few months now and more fluids leaked out. And you notice when you hit bumps, you can hear a banging noise in the back of the vehicle. And there's also, the ride of the vehicle is not great. It tends to bounce around a fair bit because the shock absorption, of course, is pretty much gone on that left rear corner.
So just for shock, to explain maybe, again, pedanticness alert, we're talking about a shock absorber basically stops the bouncing of a vehicle in that the springs would normally do when you go over a bump.
Exactly. So if you have no shock absorber, if you have just a spring, as soon as you hit a bump, the vehicle bounces up and then it bounces down. It goes up and down until eventually the oscillations all come out of whatever the energy that was put into the spring dissipates. Well, that can often take a long time. If you've ever driven in a vehicle where the shock absorbers are completely blown, it's a really uncomfortable feeling. Like the car bounces around. It's not only is it uncomfortable, it's actually dangerous because your wheels are not really in the weight of the vehicle is not really in contact with the road as much as it could be. And worn shock absorbers, sometimes you think, they're not that important, but they really are pretty critical. Brakes will wear out faster. Vehicles don't handle as well. They don't stick on the road as well. So they're a critical safety feature in a vehicle, not to mention comfort. I think that answered your question in a long-winded way.
Sure. Is there anything about the shock absorbers that's unique on this Mercedes?
Yeah, they are actually. These are like I was going to call it electro-hydraulic, but I think that's actually the wrong term for it. Maybe the GM has a term magneto-hydraulic. It uses a special fluid in the shock absorber, and it actually has like little metal particles in it, and when it's electrically charged or magnetically charged, it changes the direction of the particle, so it can change the I'll say the bounce rate of the shock absorber, the absorption. So it just depends. It'll change the handling of the vehicle. So they're pretty high tech shocks. And let's just get into some pictures right here. So there's our ML550. Unfortunately, not washed. It's a cold day in Vancouver, and the vehicle would just have frozen up had we washed it. So it's a rare, very cold moment in Vancouver. Here's our shock absorber on the vehicle, and this is kind of showing the bottom end of the shock. You can actually see some oil and fluid dripping on the ground. So this has been going on for a couple of months. I'd say, there's probably not a lot of fluid left to have been leaked out of this particular unit. There's another view, better sort of view of the shock with, you can see oil just seeping out. This is a dust boot. You can see the oil just seeping out down the side of the shock. Whenever you see oil leaking in a shock absorber, it's a sure sign that if it isn't bad right now, it's going to be bad pretty soon because the fluid is a critical component of the shock. And there's the new unit installed. Again, there's this actuator unit here, electrical connector, and that's sort of what makes the magic of these these, you know, electronic shocks. That's part of the process. That and the special fluid.
So how are there still springs in this vehicle?
There are, yeah. So they use an air spring. I'm just trying to see if we can get back. You know what? I can actually. I'll just go back to the picture. We can.
Yeah, I saw it there in the background.
Yeah, there's the air spring right there. So these use air suspension. I can't remember what they have in the front, but on the rear there's air suspension. You know, it's a good idea in an SUV vehicle where you're going to be putting weight and needing to adjust the height of the vehicle. So definitely the rear has them. They probably do in the front too. But yeah, that's the spring. It could have a coil spring too on some models, but this one has. It's a Mercedes. You know, you got to go full out. Put all the good stuff in.
And this, as you already alluded to, this type of shock isn't unique to Mercedes. GM also has it.
It's not. Lots of different manufacturers use them, but you won't find them on a lower end car. They'll only be on the higher end, you know, on Lexus or Infinitis, Lexus, Cadillacs, you know,
Corvettes
for German vehicles. Yeah, there's a variety of them, but they're all high end stuff.
And so once you got the shocks changed, of course, everything was running great again with this vehicle?
Yeah, ride's good.
And how are the Mercedes MLs for reliability?
Pretty good, but again, we're in the luxury SUV category with a lot of things that can go wrong, and expensive things like these shock absorbers, for example, they're quadruple the price of an average what an average shock absorber would be. So you know you pay a lot for that kind of thing. You know, these vehicles, I've often said they're kind of fair for reliability. We've talked a lot about the diesels, and they have issues. The gas motors are really good. Rarely run into any issues with them. So I'm always personally a fan of the gas motor. I just think they're better. Although, you know, the diesel's certainly more economical. But, you know, you can just expect that you'll spend more money on this vehicle because of what kind of vehicle it is.
So there you go. If you're looking for service and repairs on your Mercedes-Benz MLs or any Mercedes-Benz product in Vancouver, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112 to book your appointment. You have to book ahead. They're busy. Or you can check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. Hundreds of, perhaps even thousands, maybe 1,000 on there now. Videos, articles on different makes and models of vehicles, as well as the YouTube channel, Pawlik Auto Repair. Hundreds and hundreds of videos on there of all makes and models of cars, repairs, all sorts of details, us two making fools of ourselves for many years. Or, of course, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Bernie.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks for watching. Great to have fans.